Hi, this is Esther Kane with SeniorSafetyAdvice.com. I want to welcome you to our second Friday FAQ, where I answer questions that we are being frequently asked through our website at SeniorSafetyAdvice.com. Today's question is an outdoor activity. So I'm outside on a cold winter day here in Georgia, and the outdoor activity is about Segways. I honestly didn't think we would get a lot of questions about this topic, but when the research showed that people were looking for are Segways safe for seniors, we wrote the article, and surprisingly enough, we're getting quite a lot of visitors for that and some questions regarding that. So I have had personal experience on Segways, so I thought I would share my stories and just give you some information about Segways if you're considering doing that as, you know, part of your holiday events with your family or at any time with your elderly senior loved ones. So generally, our position at SeniorSafetyAdvice.com, and as an occupational therapist, my experience has taught me that Segways are generally not safe for a senior population. There are lots of reasons for that, but mostly the biggest reason is balance. Balance is a big issue on Segways, and a lot of seniors may think they have good balance. If they can walk, if they can go up and down stairs, then they must have good balance. But the truth is, no. Your balance really should be tested by a physical therapist to assess the level of how good it is. But mostly, as any of us age, our balance does tend to falter. And that is not a good thing on a Segway. So I'm going to give you my stories of my Segway experience. And this was years ago when I was, 8 years younger than I am now. I'm in my early 60s. So anyway, so we were riding on a Segway. This was on a tour down in the city of Atlanta. And my husband was behind me, and the Segway guide was in front of me. Now, my husband couldn't hear very well, and the guide said something, about a building or something. And my husband said, "What did he say?" And instinctively, even though the guide told us during the safety, part of learning how to ride the Segway not to turn around, I instinctively turned around to answer my husband, and I promptly fell off the Segway. Reason being, as soon as you turn, it alters the balance on the Segway machine. It goes this way, you go that way. So luckily I just fell on some grass, so it wasn't an issue at all. I didn't hurt myself, not one bit. It was fine. I was just more embarrassed than anything else. So a couple of years later, we took our nephew out and his wife on another tour of Atlanta. This time, though, it was down in the heart of Atlanta, Midtown, they call it, which reminds me of Manhattan. And it was lunchtime, so it was very crowded. There were a lot of people on the sidewalks, and we were taking our Segway onto the street, from the sidewalk onto the street, then back onto the sidewalk. And I maneuvered that very well with all the people. But as I got onto the sidewalk, there were a group of people coming this way, and there was a big pole on this side. I ended up right in the middle of those two sets. I thought I went through fine, but when I turned to avoid another person, the wheels, which are wider than the platform of the Segway, the wheel hit the pole. When it hit the pole, the Segway went one way. I tried to balance it back the other way, and I fell off. The Segway kept going, but because we were on a sidewalk, it didn't have too much to go. It went straight into a building, a restaurant, and it bounced back, and it ran right over my ankle, cracking my ankle. So I was actually fine falling off the Segway, even though I fell on the sidewalk, but it cracked my ankle because it ended up bouncing back off the wall over my ankle. So that's just me. Maybe I'm just very klutzy. I don't know. But that was my experience with the Segway. Not necessarily the safest things for anyone who has any issues with balance or even just trying to maneuver in very tight spaces. Honestly, I think when they do a Segway tour, they should do it on very wide open space. It is a really cool thing to ride, great thing to experience, but not that great. I mean, I ended up in a boot and weeks of whatever. It wasn't worth it. But I wanted to read to you the safety tips that the Segway company itself puts out on its website, just to give you an idea of the level of safety that is needed, how much caution you need in order to ride one of these things. So 1, always wear a helmet, which the guides, when you do a tour, should definitely give you. I know they gave them to us. Segway accidents often result in head wounds or traumatic brain injuries that may not be apparent for a while, like a concussion, fracture, subdural hematomas. So anytime you hit your head, don't ignore it. Go to the hospital, because the damage from that could occur later. And you don't even know it, where it could have been prevented. Number 2, make sure the handlebars are adjusted for your height, which your guide should do for you. But if they're not properly height, just like a walker or a cane, if it's not the proper height, it's not going to do you any good. So you want to make sure that that's correct. Check the machine that it's in balance mode before trying to step on it. And again, the guide should help you with that. If it's not in balance mode, it's much easier for it to slip out from under you, from what I understand. Pay close attention to what is around you and in front of you while riding, just like I did in Midtown. The wheels on a Segway are wider than the platform, so watch that you aren't running one wheel off the sidewalk or over a rock or a pothole or anything. In other words, if you can ride the Segway on anything that is as smooth as possible, like a street, paved street, even a sidewalk could be a little iffy just because of the bumps and cracks and anything that could occur on there. Avoid riding over curbs, steps, or other obstacles. That's a little hard to do when you're taking a tour in a city. Keep away from steep slopes. There are rugged Segways that you can ride out in more mountainous areas, but I still would recommend not to ride a Segway on any type of incline or slope, which would make it a little iffy if you're taking a Segway tour in San Francisco. Do they have Segway tours in San Francisco? I don't know. Anyway, don't ride over slippery surfaces such as wet grass, snow, or ice, or through puddles. Be careful of terrain changes, such as transitioning from grass to pavement or riding over a speed bump. That's a lot of obstacles that you have to watch out for while riding a Segway. Basically, what this has been telling me is the best place to ride a Segway is an indoor facility that's nice and smooth and flat, and there's nothing thrown on the ground that you could bump into or ride over or slip over from. Limit the riding speed, especially if the handlebar is shaking or the vehicle is making any kind of growling noises. These are machines, remember, they do break down every now and then. When stepping on or off the Segway, don't tilt the handle while the machine is in balance mode. This will cause it to move, and it may bump into you or someone else in your group. Don't let go of the machine. That was a big issue on both Segway tours that I was on. They both said, do not let go of the machine when it is in balance mode, and don't ever step off the Segway. Of course, if you fall off, that's another story. The company's safety manual says the vehicle will travel some distance on its own before shutting down. Mine, unfortunately, did travel some distance on its own, but when it hit the wall, it bounced back for some reason and ran right over my ankle, so I don't know. If going under an object like a tree limb or anything like that, or through a doorway, remember that you're taller than the Segway, so be sure to duck and be sure to duck enough. And that's another issue with seniors also, is just being able to balance onto a Segway, which you mostly do with your hips, balance onto that and at the same time be able to duck so as not to hit something. To coordinate those two may not be very easy for someone who's in their late 60s or 70s. I mean, of course, every single human being is different, but in general, our recommendation is to avoid Segways. So if your senior parent wants to ride one, be extremely cautious and try to talk them out of it and see if you can come up with some other adventurous type of activity that they might enjoy that may be a little safer. Check out our website, seniorsafetyadvice.com. Click on the search bar for Segway and you'll read our article on Segways, or just search our Segways Safe for Seniors. We should pop up near the top there on Google. So remember to subscribe to our YouTube video for our next Friday FAQ. Give us a like, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.